Thank you for joining me today on Good News with Twanda Black, where we're discovering some of the most inspiring trials to triumph stories and empowerment moments. Call up a friend and let them know it's time for some good news. Welcome to Good News with Twanda Black. Hi, I'm Twanda Black. It's such a pleasure to have you here joining us and enjoying the guests that we bring. So hold on, here's good news. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Twanda Black, and joining me is the Professor Devin Robinson. He is an educator, but as well, he is a CEO of several businesses. We're going to tell you a little bit about a couple of them. How are you doing today, Professor Robinson?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Great. I don't know if anybody can hear it yet, but he has a slight accent. So tell us about where you came from, your background.
Yeah, I was born and raised in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. Mm-hmm. Born and raised in my formative years, left at the age of 17 to join the military. I spent 7 years in the U.S. Army. And then after that, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been here. This year will make 23 years. So I've actually lived in Atlanta longer than I lived back home.
Right.
I know more about Atlanta than I know my hometown, ironically, except the accent never changed.
Right. So what was your job in the military?
I was an engineer. So I did communications. So we were like combat engineers where we set up communications for soldiers on the front line, stuff like that. So we were like a rapid deployment unit. Mm-hmm. Jumped out of airplanes. I did all that kind of stuff, and like 18-hour rapid deployment. So that skill, transferring that into the civilian world, is a network engineer, and I actually did that for a telecommunications company for a few years as well.
Then you decided this is not me.
Yeah.
Talk about moving into being an entrepreneur, because you're a serial entrepreneur, I would say, but yet quite successful. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the funny thing is my very first business started when I was in the military. So I had this bug for a long time. And in the military, what I did, I was like in my final 2 years of service. And I started this vending machine company. And, it was very simple. I had these machines all across town in salons and different companies. And I would just buy the snacks from Sam's. I had a Sam's Club membership, and I bought the snacks, put them in the machines, and let it rip. And wow. every week, I would go and, service the machines and stuff. And I just saw like, this is real money, and I'm not even here like selling them or anything. So that kind of piqued my interest even more. And I think like that was the birth of my entrepreneurial career. Because even when I left then and I left the military and I worked in corporate America, there were just several things I started getting into. And real estate was a major one that I got into that really helped me secure the resources to then resign from my position and become a full-time entrepreneur.
So you started this business in beauty supply, but talk about the reason why you did that. A lot of people don't really understand why they're going in, buying all of their products and hair and all of that. Talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, so it was, I mean, first of all, I praise God, because I'm just blessed to even have had the wherewithal, the resources, and the skill set to be successful in that industry. Mm-hmm. Because it's a really difficult industry to break into and to succeed on your own. It's very difficult, but I stumbled into it, right? So, coming from the mean streets of the Virgin Islands, I grew up in a neighborhood with some very tough characters, and namely friends. And even though I was able to escape those trappings, I kept communication with these friends. And I had a friend, actually next door neighbor, we shared the same fence. He had went away to prison for several years, like 5 years. I mean, he was 18. He had just turned 18 and wound up in prison for 5 years. And when he got out, he was always a barber. He would cut our hair in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. He was really good. And when he got out, he was just working in shops, renting boots and stuff. And he came to me because like I was into business and kind of getting my footing. And he asked me to loan him the money to open a shop. And I said, let's keep our friendship tight. So I tell you what, this is what we'll do. I will start the business. You pay no booth rent. You manage the business as if it's yours. You're the shop manager. You deal with everything, getting the boots filled, the whole nine. I will deal with the behind the scenes administrative stuff because, I have degrees in business and stuff. And, I just preferred me to handle that kind of thing. And I said, you do that. And as you raise the money, you can then buy the shop from me. And then he agreed. So we had this shop, this barber. It was a unisex. It was a barber salon, is what we called it, 20 West Barber Salon. And we had stylists, we had barbers, and that was, to me, it was just an investment. And I continued my real estate and some other things that I had. And then I just was sitting in the shop one day, and I just kind of noticed how the stylists were leaving to get supplies and come back with these bags full of supplies for their clients. And I said, I need to set up like a little station in my shop where they can just buy the stuff from me. And I make the rules. You can't buy anything from outside. You buy it from me. This is just me being the shrewd business person, right? So I went out to a beauty supply store, again, just unknowingly shopping for a large number of items to put in my shop, just in the corner of the shop. And the guy, I was doing a lot of browsing. I was probably going to spend about $2,000 that day with him. Up to this point, I had no idea of the real issues in this industry. I'm just naive, right? So I'm shopping, and I see the guy like following me around with a golf club. And then he just like threatened me. I'm paraphrasing and I'm probably being a little cliche, but hurry up and buy, right? So I'm like, this guy really just like threatened me. And, now we have the angel and the devil, right, on each shoulder, right? Saying, you don't know who you is. Like, you came from, you can go there. You know what I'm saying? And then the other side is saying, no, you evolve. Come on, guy. You're a businessman. He's older. This will be, what are you doing? And the angel won. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him live. I didn't, when I say let him live, I don't mean kill him, but, let him have his peaceful day. And I left. But it bothered me that entire day. And I went back to my shop, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and it was a brand new building, and I saw the one of the suite next door to me was empty. We were one of the first tenants in that building. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna open a beauty supply store. And I said, I'm gonna call the landlord now and give them the deposit, sign my 5-year lease, and I'm getting this location. Man, I was so naive. Had I known, had I been more informed, I would not have done that. And this whole thing would have not existed. But because I was so naive, I'm like, yeah, and I got the money and I'm smart. I can do this. So I did it. I signed the lease, put down the money, and then I'm standing in this vacant location like, okay, so how do you put this together, right? So I'm going out trying to find locations, and no one would help me out. The distributors don't want to talk to me, all this stuff. And I really started to see a challenge in getting this business open. Right. But guess what? When I say I'm blessed, right? So there's some unique things that happen. When I was in the military, I served in Korea. I did a hardship tour in Korea. So I know the food, I know the culture, I know the cities, all this stuff. And the majority of the distributors are Korean. So I said, you know what? I'm going to have to leverage my experience in Korea, right? So I would go into these places after so many denials and, rejections. And I would go in and I said, I'm going to start just talking the Korean stuff instead of coming in like, I'm suited and booted and you owe me an account to get the products. That was the wrong approach. So I came in and now I'm talking to them like, hey, I lived in Korea. And their eyes just started lighting up. Like, what? I said, yeah, I was in Daegu and Busan. And I'm talking about the food. What? And their guard came all the way down. And I started getting these accounts slowly but surely.
It's about relationship. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's what they're about. They don't care about the money. They care
Right,
about
right.
who they're doing business with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that happened. And then my store opened, and I'm still green and I'm still trying to figure things out. I hired this local high school senior. She was in a business program and she had to have a job in order to get credit for her program. And I hired her. She turned out to be a blessing in disguise. She was a 17-year-old high schooler from Westlake High School. And
Wow.
she worked for me so loyally, and she was educating me in the process. I knew nothing about a rinse or a demi permit or a tinning bowl or P1 B27s, and I'm I don't know. So she's
Right.
educating me, and she just got my whole game together. And in a matter of a few short months, my business just started to blossom, and we just started getting customers. I started becoming profitable, and it was just like a blessing. And from there, people started asking me for help. I wrote books before, so I wrote a book on it, and I just try to okay, here you go your way. I'm trying to build mine. I wound up with 3 stores, 3 locations in about 18 months, and people were just knocking down my door. And I said, you know what? I got to help other people, but I need to do it in a way that does not jeopardize my business, and I got to do it in a very structured way. So this was back in 2005, and I still own a store to this day. So I've been doing this, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
But now I have the separate business that helps people and educate them on conferences and training and helping them get into business. So actually tomorrow I'm flying to Boston to do our 168th store in this town.
Wow. Yeah, if you haven't been to a Beauty Supply Institute conference or seminar, they are phenomenal. I was there. I was there as a host, but I learned so much during that time. It was a blessing to learn the ins and outs and how, and all the challenges and the struggles. And the thing that I enjoyed is that you had real business owners there to tell the people, hey, this is not a piece of cake, but you got to keep fighting.
Right.
You gotta,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's this year we're doing it in Tulsa. We've been doing it since 2010 every year. Of course, we took a year off last year because of the pandemic, but we're doing it this year in Tulsa. This is the 100th year of the Black Wall Street massacre.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to secure their location. I mean, this was something we've been fighting to get for 2 years to do our conference. This is our 11th annual conference, and we're doing it at Black Wall Street this year because it's so synonymous with what took place in 1921, how they destroyed our businesses, and how now this industry is so controlled and dominated by non-Blacks, and how it's hard for us to get in an industry that we once dominated. This whole thing, it was pretty much birthed by Madam C.J. Walker, and we were systematically and methodically edged out of the industry. So I think that it is very becoming for us to do this in a place like the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Absolutely. It's going to be in the summertime? When is it going to be?
Yeah, it's the summer. It's July 10th to the 11th.
Okay. All right. That's phenomenal. Now I'm not sure, when did the educator part, when did the professor part kick in here? I know it was in between something.
Yeah, it was. I had already owned my first 3 locations, and I went to college. I was just always into business. Something in me just enjoyed business. I remember my very, very first business deal was when I was 12, and I wanted this really nice remote control car. They were so popular back then. It was a big deal, and I had to harass my mom. It was about a $200 remote control car. She fought with me because it's too expensive. We were not well off. I finally got it, right? And once I got it, of months of crying for it, and I got it, and I'm the guy in the neighborhood, right? And then I started renting it to the other kids. Like, you give me $3 and I'll let you drive it for 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
That was my very first stint as an entrepreneur. And it just felt like, okay, So now I was getting the money to like soup up my remote control car. I'm putting a different engine and tires on it because I rented out to the kids in the neighborhood, to drive it for 15 minutes. So, that's I was always into that. And so I went to college for business, and I got multiple degrees in business. And I just said, I'm going to take this to the classroom. So I started teaching at actual universities, and I taught economics. I taught like 7 different economics courses, business courses at 3 different colleges. I taught in a retail management program. And I was just doing that because I feel like the younger minds that are in these classrooms are getting a lot of theory for business, but they're not really getting practical, right? Because it happened to me when I was getting my degrees. It was a lot of theory. So I said, I feel like that's a disservice that we have people that get business degrees, but you're teaching them how to just run someone else's business. So I wanted to sprinkle the elements of like entrepreneur and what really happens in the real world. So I went into the classrooms to do that. And ironically, as I did that, and then we started our conferences, people just start calling me professor in and out of the classroom. So our clients and customers, they just started calling me the professor. They just felt like the information that I gave and how I give it is so dynamic, and they grab it and they're like, man, you're a real educator. And they just coined me Professor Devin. So I tell people it's not like a moniker like, Dr. Dre or Professor Griff. Like I really taught colleges, for like 8 years,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about the books. Give me the titles of your books.
So they go back far. Okay. I got Changing Your Mind. That is a journey on personal discovery that helps you. It's a 6-month journey. You read it over 6 months, and it helps you kind of shift your perspective on certain things, especially if you come from a challenged background. I got Breaking the Cycle, Getting to Second Generational Wealth. I have Raising a Rebel Son, what's wrong with him and how to tackle it. That was kind of semi-autobiography. I have Rebuilding the Black Infrastructure, Making America a Colorless Nation. I think that is that was probably one of my most important books. It's well researched. A lot of information is put in there on how we can elevate ourselves to equal notoriety, no matter what race we're talking about. But rebuilding our Black infrastructure is important. Talking about education, economics, the household, these different areas of how we can focus and get that taken care of. Then I have Power Move, how to transition from employee to employer. I speak about that.
That was one of your best books.
Thank you so much. I still get a lot of people talking about that book because that's also semi-autobiographical, talking about my transitions from military to corporate to then entrepreneurship, and how you really have to shift the way you do things and think in order to be a successful entrepreneur. It's one of my textbooks in my programs. People still also buy it independently, but that is, I sunk my teeth into that one. How to become a successful beauty supply store owner. It's called Taking It Back, how to become a successful beauty supply store owner. That book is what really took off. We sold close to 40,000 copies independently on my own label. If you want to call it a label, I'm not a rapper, but it's, what do you call it, an imprint?
Your imprint.
Got a lot of media coverage over it, from Ebony magazine to tons of national coverage. I was in the New York Times, all types of stuff for that book. And then I have one of my, this book is very critical and really digs into a lot of the taboo topics in communities, and it's called Blackpreneurship. 50 obstacles Black entrepreneurs face and how to overcome them. And I speak about those 50 things that are very common and germane to Black entrepreneurs. Because we talk about business, right? We say that the business is difficult, which is true. It's a battlefield. But a lot of the resources and media and training and stuff that we get for business does not speak on the specifics of the Black community's business challenges because they're not the same. So you can watch Shark Tank, you can watch The Profit, you can watch all these shows that talks about business and how to get through it. CNBC, even American Greed, what you should not do. Those undercover boss, but they're not speaking to specific issues of black business owners, and racism is just one of them. There are issues that reside in our communities as well that we inflict upon ourselves. The statistic that we have from poor education to having children too early, to protesting, to even our comedians, right? And I'll just kind of give one example out of the book. Our humor out of our comedians also negatively impacts the Black entrepreneur, because when they're talking about, they're being funny on stage, but when they talk about the white entrepreneur, they talk about how perfect they are. They have high credit score. They put a joke spin on it of how straightforward they are and all this stuff, right? But when they talk about the Black entrepreneur, it's always about how ghetto we are and how we come up short and how we're unprofessional. And it's funny, right? Yeah. But those jokes, that's kind of the best way to sneak in reality, right? You make people laugh. And then they go out to these places and have this expectation that a Black business won't succeed, right? We have this cloud over our head that we have to now remove, this stereotype. And then we have, like, one of the other issues we have is reviews. A very dangerous cultural thing that we have is Black people would shop at a Black business, and if that Black business comes up short, they cast away all Black businesses. They say, that's why I don't shop at Black businesses. That's what they say. We don't say that specific Black business or that specific business or whatever. We say, this is why I don't mess with Black businesses. Yeah. But if a white business does that, we allow them the grace by saying, don't go to that Starbucks. Don't go to that McDonald's. But we continue to go to the other McDonald's, or we go to the other white businesses, the car washes, the other restaurants, the clothing stores. We don't give the same ill response to when they come up short. So those are just a few of the obstacles that are impeding the growth of Black businesses. So when you see a successful Black entrepreneur generating millions or even making the $1 billion status, that is a real entrepreneur. Like, you got to tip your hat to them because of these obstacles we got to get past before we can even get into a good product, quality product, marketing, competitive advantage. Before we can even get to that, we got to get past these challenges. So that book is very critically acclaimed. It's a cover that shocks people as well. But it is a very important book.
What you all just said, you teach that in the Urban Business Institute as well.
Yes, absolutely. In my Urban Business Institute, we have a program called Rebuilding the Block, and we focus on 7 businesses that we help people get into, that are easy to get into, easy to manage, but generates a great cash flow. But that's where I speak about entrepreneurship itself, right? As a whole, and teach people how to start thinking and operating like an entrepreneur. You can't run a business the same way you run your house. It's totally different. The cash management is totally different. You hear people say, or financial advisors and stuff, they say, make sure you pay yourself first, but they say pay yourself 10%. In my book, Power Move, I discredit that entire model because it does not work well for you when you become a senior and you're trying to retire. It does not work well, and that's why we struggle in our older years, because we don't factor in inflation, poor health, these different things, and that 10% will only last you maybe 7 to 10 years. And then you're now depending on Social Security or maybe a retirement pension if you have a good one. But your funds itself has to be compounding at a bigger scale. So I have this thing called the consumption theory, where we actually only consume 10% of our income, not save 10% of our income. We live off of 10% of our income, and that other 90% goes into different things that I break down. And what happens there is you make yourself, I don't want to ever say recession proof, but it's very difficult for a recession or a downturn to negatively affect you. I've been through recessions, I've been through this pandemic, but because of the diversification and because I actually live less than 10% of my income at this point. But because I'm able to do that, there's a lot of factors that will have to take place in order to disrupt my personal lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that I teach entrepreneurs as well. And then they can take that into any industry or any business that they want to run. But you gotta be able to build your outlook and your perception and how you function around money, business, leadership, ideas, strategy, sustainability. All those things are very important, and I break those things down in our different programs.
Tell people how they can learn more about the Urban Business Institute.
Yeah, our Urban Business Institute, you can go to our website, urbanbusinessinstitute.com. We actually have a facility, classrooms, all that good stuff for staff. You call there 770-850-9949. Someone's always there. Well, not always, but Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 to service your call. And in our Urban Business Institute, one of the things we also do is get the capital for our entrepreneurs. So that is a very important thing as well, because a lot of our entrepreneurs, few of the main things that our entrepreneurs struggle with is being undercapitalized, underfunded, not being able to attract high-paying customers, retain high-paying customers, and also unable to attract high-skilled workers. So that also suppresses the business, where because we're underfunded, we don't have necessarily quality products or a great infrastructure or a great location being able to be competitive. So we're unable to be exposed to the high-paying customer and be able to maintain a high level of standard to retain that high-paying customer. And then the high-skilled worker, we got tons of graduates coming out of these HBCUs, universities, technical colleges with business degrees, but we always tend to go for the highest bidder. We look at who's going to pay me the most. I got student loans. I got to take care of my mama, my kids, whatever. And we go after the highest bidder. So then that now removes the Black business out of the consideration, because that's not typically what you're going to get. And before we can get that, at this point now, I'm able to get, pretty much all my workers are high paid, have high skills. We get high quality customers, but you're talking almost 20 years in business before I could have been able to retain that type of worker. In the beginning, you're left with the people who are probably, convicted felons. They are blemished in some type of way, where they're rejected from corporate America. And then they are the people that consider working for you. And many times your business is transient for them, because they're just there until they can find the next big thing.
Right.
Some of those things are factors, right? Like the last few years, I'm just able now to provide health insurance for my workers. All my workers get health insurance, and they don't pay a dime. It's all fully company sponsored. So it's almost like being in the military. So they get family insurance, and they don't pay any premiums. We cover everything for them. And now I'm working on pensions, retirement for my staff. But this is almost 20 years doing this. Yeah. So if you can make it past the early years by not having these type of workers, like I said, hats off to you, because that Harvard degree person or whomever is not just going to come work for you for less wages, no real strong benefits, and instability. So those are some of the things that we make sure that our students and customers and stuff have. And then, of course, like I said, we provide the funding for them. We provide adequate funding for them. So far this year, which we're closing out the first quarter, we put just over $800,000 in loans out to our students. And in our first year doing it, we generated 1.6 million in loans that we issued to our students. So that is solving a big problem for our entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. We need more of that. And tell folks, how they can learn more about funding, how they can learn more about the Beauty Supply Institute. You told us about Urban Business Institute. Is there a one stop where they can go and see all of those things?
Yeah, so they're separate companies. I actually own 11 companies. Beauty Supply Institute is its own business. You go to beautysupplyinstitute.com. We have a location there. Same thing, staff. My beauty supply store, Shelly's Beauty Supply, is actually in that facility. So it's open to the public, but you can't really tell from the street what it really is. You just think it's a beauty supply store. So you go in, but then there are classrooms. There's a separate entrance door. There's classrooms and our headquarters where our students who fly in town, because they fly from across the country for our training program. And part of the program is they go work in our store. And the store's there. They can observe it and they can work in it with our management team, as you know, because they're working with live customers. So beautysupplyinstitute.com is that business. You can go to Shelly's Beauty Supply, Shelly'sBeautySupply.com. That's my store. If you're just trying to order products, you can do it online as well. Contact them. And then we have urbanbusinessinstitute.com. My lending groups, I have multiple lending groups, but once you go to the institutes, they will pipe you through to our lending groups, because we're not open to the public. Like, I don't just help anybody off the street. We help our students get the funding. That's where my focus is right now, getting this adequate funding into our community. And in doing so, I think it's important to make sure that the people that we give this $75, $100, $150,000 to for their business are prepared, adequately trained, because people look at, I need high credit score, I need the loan, I need the investors, whatever, and then they get it and then they make a mess out of it. We have too many fly-by-night entrepreneurs in our community, too many people that start, fail, don't know what to do, and that becomes a bigger problem when you get that kind of money in your pocket. So we make sure that we're not just giving it to the general public, we're giving it to people who have been through our training and our consulting.
Tell folks where they can get your books from.
Oh, you can go to devinrobinson.com. How could I forget about that website? There's devinrobinson.com, and all my books are there. DevinRobinson.com. All my books are there that you can get as well. That is under my other company, Going Against the Grain Publications. My first book was published by a publisher, and I felt like those royalty checks didn't add up to the work that I was doing. So I said, hold up, let me go independent. And that was probably the best decision I made, entering into the publishing world and learning how the distribution and all that stuff works, and getting your books placed in the brick and mortar around when they were at the time, the Barnes and Nobles and Borders and Walden Books, doing book signings. I've learned that. And it was great because I'm still continuing to get residuals off of all my books that are being sold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Professor Devin, thank you so much for joining us and for just sharing. This is such a life's journey for you. Have you thought about other things that you're going to do in the future, or are you just stabilizing what you have, which I think is probably already stable, but have you thought about what else?
Yeah, so I got one more play in my playbook that I'm gonna pull for the Black community, and what it is that I'm gonna create. It's going to be something that ensures the success of Black entrepreneurs. It is going to be a very strong support system, no matter what industry you're in. I've been working on this part of my strategy for about 6 years. I started off working on it in 2015, and I still haven't quite rolled it out yet, but we're getting to the final stages. The pandemic kind of sat me down a little bit, made me kind of, get introspective. And, as you can see, my hair, I've been, I just cleaned my face up. My face was all crazy. Because I was just feeling like I need to let myself heal. My body, my mind, and everything took the time out to do that during the pandemic. But we're getting ready to, get back out there, get the conferences going again. And that final play, I'm not quite at liberty to mention just yet, but I will make sure that you, my sister, my big sister Twanda, knows, so we can get that information out there. But that is my like final move, where it's like, okay, now this is going to ride me into the sunset. Now that I know that There's no excuse for Black entrepreneurs. There are no more obstacles that exist. I can now live peacefully knowing that I did my part.
Rest. All right now. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Devin Robinson, CEO of the Urban Business Institute, Beauty Supply Institute, devinrobinson.com, multiple books. And I mean, you're not an old man. You've done a lot with what God has given you, and God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the program. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me here at Good News with Twanda Black. I pray that you've enjoyed our special guest for today. Look, follow me on Facebook at Twanda Black ATL, or on Instagram at The Real Twanda B. God bless you, and keep on coming back, all right?